All right, let's jump right in. We're all trying to make sense of modern conflict, which can feel incredibly complex. So today, we're going to look at it through a really unconventional lens: Kabbalistic geopolitics. The idea here is to see if there's a deeper pattern at play that we might be missing. And let's be real, right? The daily headlines, the attacks, the counterattacks, the diplomatic standoffs, it can all feel like pure chaos. This perspective suggests that if we really want to get what's going on, we have to look deeper, beneath that noisy surface. So here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we'll start with the chaos we all see. Then we'll introduce an ancient framework to help sort through it. After that, we'll apply it directly to the conflict, explore a few ways this could all play out, and finally see if this new lens can actually bring some clarity to a very complex situation. Okay, so part one, let's ground ourselves in what's happening right now. The Middle East, especially after 2023, has become this massive, interlocking puzzle that really seems to defy any simple explanation. I mean, think about it. It's not just one thing, is it? It's this whole tangled web. You've got the prolonged and devastating war in Gaza. At the same time, a northern front is active and incredibly tense. Then you have attacks coming from Iran and its network of proxies. And on top of that, the Houthis are disrupting global trade in the Red Sea. But the real kicker, the thing that affects everything else, it's this massive, widespread crisis of trust. So you have to ask the question, with all the usual ways of analyzing military and political moves, feeling like they're falling short, is there another way to look at all this? Is there a different way to understand the logic, if there is one, behind all the chaos? And that brings us to the core idea of this explainer. The source material we're looking at suggests using concepts from Kabbalah. Now, this isn't about promoting a mystical belief system. Not at all. It's about using these ancient ideas as a really sharp analytical tool, a way to shine a light on the forces driving the conflict. So the framework starts with these two powerful archetypes, Isaac and Ishmael. Think of them less as historical figures and more as symbolic forces. In this view, Israel, or Isaac, represents what's called the middle pillar, this constant struggle to balance openness with firm boundaries. Ishmael, representing the broader Arab and Islamic world in this model, is framed as a force of judgment, one that prioritizes honor, setting limits, and often through confrontation. It's a relationship of deep, ancient connection, and, as we know, of persistent rivalry. Now, to really get that dynamic, you need to understand the two primal forces that are supposedly at work. On one side, you have chesed, which is grace. This is all about openness, expansion, giving. Think diplomacy, humanitarian aid, open-door policies. And on the other side, you have din, or judgment. This is the opposite force: limitation, boundaries, structure. This is your military defense, your border walls, your strict regulations. And here is the crucial point. Neither of these forces is good or bad on its own. The goal, the ideal strategic state, according to this framework, is what's known as the middle pillar. This is the sweet spot. It's a perfect synthesis, where grace and judgment are balanced and integrated. It's where strength and compassion actually work together instead of canceling each other out. Okay, so that's all of it abstract, I know. How does this stuff actually apply to what's happening today? Let's take this framework and lay it right over the modern battlefield to see what it reveals. When you look at the battlefield this way, you see it's not a simple state versus state conflict anymore. It's a single nation up against this fluid, regional network of proxies. It's not just a war of jets and missiles. It's an information war, a war of narratives. And as we're seeing in the Red Sea, it's also an economic war with huge global ripple effects. The source uses this incredibly powerful phrase, "the truth is absent," to capture the feeling of our current environment. And it's talking about more than just fake news. It's pointing to a fundamental breakdown of shared reality, a world where competing stories make it almost impossible to agree on even the basic facts. And that, of course, just fuels this massive crisis of trust. So what happens when those two primal forces we talked about get out of balance? Well, according to this framework, you get something called disconnected grace. This is chesed, or grace, acting all by itself. Picture a big humanitarian gesture, or a diplomatic opening made without any solid security backing. The intention might be wonderful, But the source argues it just creates a huge vulnerability that an opponent can, and probably will, exploit. And here's the flip side of that coin: disconnected judgment. This is din, or judgment, on its own. It's the purely military response, a powerful strike, a tactical operation that isn't connected to a clear political goal. Sure, it might punish an enemy, but it doesn't solve the core problem. It just winds up kicking off the next, inevitable cycle of violence. So, if the present is defined by these disconnected forces swinging back and forth, you have to wonder, where is all this headed? The source actually lays out 3 very distinct potential futures, 3 different paths that could emerge from the current chaos. The first path isn't great. It's a spiral of attrition, basically a forever war on multiple fronts that just grinds everyone down, economically and psychologically. But out of that exhaustion, a second path could emerge, a cold arrangement. This is more pragmatic. Think partial deals for rebuilding and reducing threats, all based on the idea that we won't mess with you if you don't mess with us. Then there's a third, much more ambitious path, a civil spiritual paradigm. This is where you shift focus to cooperation on things everyone needs, like water or public health, to slowly build trust from the ground up and isolate the extremists. Okay, let's pull all these threads together. The whole point of looking at things this way isn't to get lost in mystical ideas. It's about using them to cut through the noise and find a clear path towards strategic balance. And I want to be really, really clear on this point. This explainer is not making a call for some kind of mystical peace. It's presenting this Kabbalistic lens as a tool, a sharp, practical tool for realistic strategic thinking. It's a way to recognize that this fight isn't just happening on a physical battlefield, but also on a battlefield of symbols, stories, and deep-seated archetypes. So, at the end of the day, the ultimate takeaway is this. The strategic goal becomes about constantly diagnosing when security, that's din, and humanity, that's kased, are disconnected and working against each other. The real challenge is to find that middle pillar strategy that finally unites them, creating action that is both powerful and purposeful, both secure and humane. And that leaves us with the big, essential question. In a conflict that's being fought just as much with stories as it is with bombs, in a world where the very concept of truth feels like it's under attack, what does a true middle pillar strategy actually look like on the ground? How do you even begin to build it? That's the central challenge this framework asks us all to think about. All right, let's